Saturday or Sunday, Sunday, 2 AM or something like
Well, won't make much difference.
It's 7 o'clock, I call the meeting to order. Mr. Member?
that. All right, and we have Steve with Public Works and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And so this is gonna be like the first actual one I've ever done, so if I go awry, please let me
You
know.
did it last year.
Yeah, I think you've been working here 2 days.
I know.
Reference somebody else's
You did a
budget.
good job.
So the road, the first one on the list that we did anything with was the road agent salary one, and we dropped that. $1,360 because, well, am I allowed to bounce back and forth? Because the way that it makes sense is to go to the transfer station budget. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we ended up keeping, I think it's 12,000 of Steve's salary in the transfer station budget, based on actions that the select board had taken, because Steve now oversees the transfer station.
So,
So we kept that,
So that
so we kept
portion of it
that,
is still there.
right, we kept that cost center in the
Yeah.
transfer station.
so to get to what my salary was, it made sense to remove the 1,360 from that, because it just made the numbers easier to work with. I raised the part-time on-call wages, 7,000, and that was in hopes that if this passed, we could hire a part-time person to work in the summertime mowing the parks and the cemeteries, because when we take into account all the mowing, it takes one person a whole entire week to mow everything that we have. And that doesn't include travel time to and from places in breakdowns, and that does not include the weed whacking aspect of it, which adds, just for Lee Hill, another 10 hours of weed whacking. Then we still have Old Parish that adds time onto, and all of the other parks. So I was hoping to hire someone with that extra added on to mow, so we could do a little bit more road work, be back on the road a little bit, and cut brush and ditch and do more things like that. Overtime I raised to 11,000. Because they've been out more than previous, because I don't believe it's safe to cut trees up in the middle of the night by yourself on the side of the road. I think it's smart to have a second person there, because if you slip and get your leg stuck, and you drop the saw, there's no one there to get you out. So having a second person is more of a safety thing. I deleted the flagger line. The telephone landlines I reduced by $40 to $780, because Julie and I looked at the bills, and that's about what we normally should spend, is that, $780. Medical and drug testing, I dropped $100. We haven't been close to the 400 I dropped it to, except for 2 years ago, and that was still $357, so we were still under. Parks and grounds maintenance, I raised $1,000 from 4,000 this current fiscal year to 5. This past year, we spent 5288, so I'm trying to get back closer to what we spent for that year. I didn't touch all that. Rented hired equipment, I raised another $1,000 to put more online than what we spent in fiscal 19. Signs and warning devices, I dropped $250. Again, we haven't spent it all, so I lowered it. Tires, I raised $500 because we overspent it last year, and that that 2197 was for 5 tires. The rear end of the Sterling needed 4 new tires, and that alone was, I think it was $2,700. And then, or sorry, $1,700. And then the other money that went toward it was for the front tire of the salt truck that was dry rotted that we had to replace. So I raised it $500 to try to come more online with what a complete dump truck would cost if we had to put all new tires on one truck. Heat, I raised $1,000 because we overspent like $1,259 in this past fiscal year on heat. And then gas, $560, and a lot of that is because we came close. And in the wintertime, I take the pickup truck home so I can respond to the winter emergencies in a more timely fashion, and that wasn't in the previous budget that we had, so I increased it by $560. And that is what I have for the highway department, if you have any questions.
None of that mowing time's in the cemetery budget, is it, Julie?
No.
Steve, on the salt, sand, and magnesium,
Yes.
when do we start getting sand out of the quarry? When do we start using that sand?
If everything goes right, hopefully we'll start using it next year.
Next year?
If everything goes right, if it doesn't,
Okay,
we're gonna have to get creative.
yeah, okay.
Can you speak to holiday wages and also to police details?
So the holiday wages, I don't understand. So I've put, when I pay things, that it comes out of that line and then it doesn't. So I personally don't know on that one.
So what's going, it is.
I don't know why, I don't think that we've used it historically in the past. Hold on, sorry.
It's pretty much the same, isn't it?
Yeah, there's never any
But
action.
we did change the holiday policy where we may now be using that holiday, right? Didn't we change the?
Yeah, and after we changed it, we still would have used it and it didn't come out.
Right.
What is it coming out of? OT or something?
So,
It's
no,
probably
so
either
like-
just- Yeah,
If
OT
we
or-
work on a holiday,
Right.
which we did twice last year, I would put it on it, but I'd like write down it would come out of that.
So you'd physically do it, but it didn't come out of that?
Yeah, but if you look at their pay, it's all higher, so my assumption is it just went out of
right.
regular pay and not the holiday pay. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So I'm wondering if that's a function of someone has to transfer it over or?
Well, it would have to be, I mean, it would have to be specifically coded as holiday wages in order to get paid out of that line.
Mhm.
But that's something we can talk with Joanne about.
So are you over though?
No, he's never used
We
it.
never used it.
No. Over in wages where the charge is
the
actually
other-
coming out of.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah, so road agent assistant was 47,845 and his actual pay was 48,657, so.
Okay. So maybe if we're not gonna use it, there's no sense carrying it, I wouldn't think.
mhm,
Let's just take it out, and if he needs more money, or if you need, excuse me, I'm talking about the third person. You need more money, just put it in the line item where it's coming out of. So maybe it increases the full-time wages by whatever. Because we
Okay.
should budget in there what they're being paid at the moment. So,
Yes.
and that, right, and that's what is being budgeted.
okay,
That's what's
Based
budgeted
on-
now.
Based on a standard 2,080 hours in a year times the hourly rate.
all right.
Yeah.
Well, maybe
So-
you put the 1280 in full-time wages so that you have that money to pay holiday time.
Okay.
And unless if she can figure out how to do the 12 in terms of
Right.
holiday wages,
Right.
but I don't know, is there something to be gained by splitting it out? I don't know.
Police and fire do it, I mean, they
Well,
split it up.
police and
Yeah.
fire are paid differently for holidays.
I see. So this isn't for like time and a half, is it?
Well,
Is it time and a half if you work on a holiday?
yes,
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
yes.
So we would probably could just move it from holiday wages to overtime.
It probably should sit.
Yeah.
It's easier. I would
It
do
is.
that.
Steve, normally speaking, what kind of rented and hired equipment do we get?
Tree trucks, we have to rent an excavator to do pipes in ditch. I rented this past winter a pickup truck with a plow to help with some of the intersections in the smaller developments so we could get around a little bit better and faster. And that's the majority of it, is pipes for excavators, and tree trucks and stuff like that.
So it's nothing we should purchase instead of continuously rent?
If you look at the CIP, there's money set aside in the CIP in 5 years to buy an excavator. We're just not at that point yet, but it is in the future plans.
Okay. The other part of my question was police details.
Yep. So it was lowered last year from 3,000 to 1,000. I have used some this year out of it.
Okay.
When we put the guardrail in over there on,
Garrity? Was it Garrity?
yes. We were in the middle of paving at the same time, and we were extremely short on help, and I had a police officer come and flag for us
Okay.
and do that stuff. And it was a lead police officer, so I didn't have to pay the vehicle rental, but I still had to pay the officer's overtime wage out of that.
So how much did you expend out of?
I don't remember, I believe it was around 300 for that so far.
Steve, when you came last year, we did kind of sandbag you, I think you've been here 2 days. And you were not sure how the wages were gonna come to, how the staffing was gonna come together. Have you been, has it worked all right the way that we had this set up from a staffing perspective?
It's difficult
Okay.
with the staff we have to complete summer work. With the staff we have to do winter work,
Mhm.
we're fine. It's the summer work
Okay.
where we have the
So
issues.
you were able to find plow guys, because you were a little
I
concerned?
had plow people, yes.
You were a little concerned
Yeah.
last year that you weren't.
And then I addressed, hopefully, the summer concerns that I had with
With the
that
guy,
part-timer.
Okay.
Because if I can just get someone to cut grass 3 days a week, it'll open us up to be able to do a lot more. Because like Little River Park, with it being on the sprinkler system, there are times we have to mow those fields twice a week. And if we don't mow them twice a week, they get too tall and we have to go down there with a bagger. And then you make 3 passes on a field and you gotta go dump it in the truck, so,
But you were okay in winter, you could find people to plow.
yes.
The other question I had was, how about paving? Are you,
We're right on pace to pave the same amount of lane miles of road about as last year. And I spent this year, out of the budget, 197,000 of the 200,000, so we
so,
were close,
okay.
very, very close. And I think we should be okay. Some of the roads are a little narrower than the ones we did this year, and they're in a little bit better shape because we've caught up on the 10-year plan, so we shouldn't have to put as much down in the bad spots. And if the roads are narrower, you're obviously not putting out as much as if it's a 24-foot lane. So I think we should be okay.
Can you elaborate on what you asked about the sand and salt out of the pit? I know there was a public hearing about that, but is that,
Well, we have the quarry, I forget what we refer to it.
Clay Lane.
Sorry,
Clay Lane.
Clay Lane, and, which is a source or will be a source of sand for us to use as opposed to having to buy it off the market.
We're just finally through that pile at the,
We are gonna screen the rest of it probably in the next week and a half, and then it'll be gone.
wow,
That's something.
that'd take forever.
Well, there was a lot of sand they took
It
out.
was.
That was Little River Parks stuff?
No,
No, no.
Old Mill Road.
Oh.
And they turned it back into a swamp.
Just to round out that conversation, because I don't know that anyone here, other than the select board, was at the public hearing relative to the unanticipated revenue. The state, as part of its budget cycle, gave the municipalities $40 million in extra state aid to be distributed over fiscal '20 and fiscal '21. So the first payment that the town of Lee got, we received in the middle of October, was $44,000 and change. So the select board at their Monday night meeting determined two things. One, to accept the money because it's considered unanticipated revenue, and that's why it had to happen in a public hearing. And then the second part of that was to allocate $34,000 of those funds to start the work to develop the Clay Lane gravel pit.
Do we own that?
Yes, we have owned it, we took it by tax deed in 1985 with the intention that we were gonna use it as a gravel pit. And we obviously have not yet, but now the time has come, because as Steve has discussed with the select board, there was never, I shouldn't say never, for a very long time, there has not been money in the highway budget to purchase sand, because we had a big stockpile of it, and now that sand has run out. So if we don't develop the Clay Lane pit, we need to put about $25,000 into the highway budget each year for sand.
Where is that pit?
Clay Lane,
Newtown Plain?
Newtown Plains.
Newtown Plains.
Okay.
Off that short.
Next to
Do you
the,
remember?
Got it.
Do you remember where Carl Lyden lived? Carl Lyden lived? Do you remember where Carl Lyden lived?
Yeah.
Right behind his
Yeah.
house.
What's anticipated for product in that pit?
Yeah, how much is there?
There's 7 total acres there. 5 of it has really, really good material, and in that 5 acres, there's estimated to be 121,000 cubic yards.
And I assume
Of
you have
material.
to conform to the zoning ordinance and all of that.
Mhm.
So, right now, we only wanna clear 3 acres, and in that 3 acres, we estimate there's probably 80,000 cubic yards of sand in that 3 acres, and we use about 1,000 cubic yards a year, so there's a lot of sand sitting in that pit
Yeah, that's
for future use.
So
Can
everything is on it.
Either Steve or Julie tell them the procedure you have to go through to get permission to do that?
Right.
So we are not exempt from the planning board regulations relative to developing gravel pits. So we have to hire an engineer to create a reclamation plan and to do some other things, and then that all has to go to the planning board. There will be a hearing in front of the planning board, the abutters get notified, there will have to be site walks and all of that. So we are not exempt from those regulations.
There was some grousing on social media, which is where I had heard about it before, so I didn't notice for the
Yes, there are
public hearing.
a few people
butters,
who are not happy.
Any others? Yeah,
Yeah,
probably, yeah.
I would imagine.
yeah. Okay, thank you.
Good on that section.
One other question about the highway, are you asking, is there anything on the CIP this year for the highway department?
This current year,
For the year we're talking about?
a new pickup truck.
Okay.
Actually, no, a new pickup truck is in this year, so there is a new dump truck, I believe, on it.
Okay.
To be purchased in fiscal '21?
I think so.
Okay.
But I wasn't planning on buying a new dump truck with that in the CIP. My personal belief would be it would be better to spread the new trucks out rather than have a new one, then 2 years later, a new one.
We just bought a new one.
Because we don't know what kind of year, how good they're gonna last and how long they're gonna last, so having one and then another one go at the same time would not be good, so.
Well, they're building them cheaper.
I was trying to spread them out a little bit.
Cheaper, say it, put it on the table, they're building it
They're
cheaper.
building them a lot cheaper.
Yeah,
than
but
they
there
used
you
to.
go.
They don't make them like
Cheap,
they
cheap,
used
cheap.
to.
They don't break them like that.
So are you looking for one in this budget year?
I don't recall
No.
what the highway CIP is.
I mean, I went the other day and looked to maybe buy one out of the CIP because we have the money in there to buy it, and I had one come up that might have been good. And it wasn't as good as we had hoped, but I still went up to see, and it went for way more than I was comfortable spending. But we're looking at auctions here and all over the place to see.
Transfer station?
All right, so the transfer station manager, we dropped 36,899 to 12, and that's the other half of my salary, so that's why that's there. And then that 36,899, we added 34,175 to the full-time wages because there's a new full-timer in there, and that's his wage, and then the rest of it went toward the part-time wages. The rest of the 36,899 went to the part-time wages. And I think that should be good. I've got a bunch more part-timers in there working hours on weekends and some during the week to try to eliminate problems that had been there, and I think they're working out okay. I got someone on the wall at all times to help people.
I can say as a customer, there's always
There's a
somebody
big-
there for
yeah,
people to help us
big
unload the
difference.
truck. There's always,
Mhm.
it's been a complete change in.
Right.
I only have one complaint.
Oh,
It's the only place where I can socialize,
Oh, jeez.
politicize, do political discussion with former selectmen from multiple times ago, and former selectmen on 2 different boards that I've served on. And one of your employees comes up and says, "You gotta stop talking, move it."
Because they read social media too and see.
I had to commend them because
Yeah, you should have said thank you.
it kind of took Jim Griswold off his feet at that point, because we're out there, blah, 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 going on and on and on. Of course, there's a line that goes out the damn door, right? He says, "You gotta move it, take it outside." It was cute.
Right.
And it wasn't cute at the time, but it was cute now. I had a lot more discussion.
Well, you're training them well.
Move those guys through the thing.
So you're able to hire people?
Yeah,
Yeah, we've been told that was an impossibility.
no.
So Steve has managed to find people.
That's
Yeah.
wonderful, and they're very helpful.
Yeah, the wall is always covered.
Yeah, the wall is
There's
always
somebody out
covered.
there.
I thought you were gonna say something about the green box we put in the glass and you couldn't.
Well,
that was
I
good.
was gonna ask you about that.
Well, it keeps it from rolling.
Of course.
That's
Goes
not
down the
why,
slide.
that's not why we did it.
No?
No, because you watch the camera and there's kids leaning over it all the time.
Yes.
Oh,
Right.
geez.
Dangling their feet in the air and their
Yes.
bodies are half over it.
Of
and
course.
People are walking over and throwing bottles over the wall and they watch glass come back up.
Yes.
I think that's the dangerous.
It's an accident waiting to happen, so.
Yeah. I
It was
have
it was a
gotten-
good idea.
I have stopped
took
kids,
away
I've
some of
gotten
the
kids out of
kids.
the way before I've thrown glass in there before, because they're looking around like, would
Yeah,
you
it's
please get out of the way?
Parents do bring their kids in.
It was a,
It's like
it was a
it's like
safety
something
issue.
fun to do.
I tried to fix it.
Yeah, it was a good idea.
I
Too
del-
bad for the kids.
Yeah. I deleted the engineering, or I deleted the part-time clerical wages line out, because it was zeroed out. And we've never used it, I don't see a reason in keeping it. The overtime I increased by 72. Just because I like even numbers.
Yeah, I can see that.
Engineering, I deleted that line out, excuse me, it hasn't been funded. It wasn't funded in this past fiscal year, so I got rid of it. Compliance, I reduced and got rid of. We've never spent any money out of it. Telephone landlines, I dropped by $50 to 400, because if you go back all the way to 18, we've never spent over the 400. Cell phone reimbursement, I got rid of because I get my cell phone reimbursed out of the highway department. There's no reason to have a cell phone reimbursement in the transfer station. I left internet the same, the recycling expense I left the same, CFC is the same, ground equipment I increased by 4,600 because equipment maintenance in there has been lacking for a long time, and there's a lot of things in there that needed a lot of work done to them. And we're gonna probably spend every bit of the 7 that I have this year, and hopefully the 11.6 will cover it for years following. I got rid of volunteer t-shirts. It hasn't been funded since 18 and they didn't spend it. The porta potty I kept the same. Printing I increased by $50. We just ordered stickers this year, and in 2 years we're gonna probably be getting ready to order some more stickers because of the way it goes. The stickers went up. The stickers took almost all of my current printing budget to print for this year. The dues and subscriptions one, the $1,328, the increase there is for the Lamprey payment of 13. Sorry,
Yeah, no, that's what it is.
yeah, it's for the Lamprey payment.
Yeah, why is it under dues?
Where is,
Because because we have to pay it, that's just where we put it.
Yeah, so I guess a placeholder?
I don't,
Monthly or something, or?
No, it's a yearly,
No.
it's the yearly,
Yeah, I know what you're
but I
saying.
don't
No,
have, I have 350. Or does everybody else have more?
I have 350.
Are you
All right,
looking at the
no.
transfer
Dues and
station?
subscriptions?
Right, but are you looking at the transfer station budget with the October 24th date
Yeah, it
in the
has to have this
bottom
down here.
left?
Oh, I don't have that one.
It must be, she must have given
No,
all
last meeting, I handed out a lot of material,
Oh, that was part of it?
and that was part of it.
Oh, we're looking at the.
We're
that.
looking
Yeah,
at
that's
the
why
wrong
you're
one.
looking,
I wasn't.
because if you look at this thing, what he's saying is not on there. Yeah, look at this thing.
Yeah.
I also handed out an entirely new budget with that October 24th date on it.
Yeah,
All right, where is it?
so everybody's sitting around looking at the wrong damn thing? What the hell's the matter with you?
Yeah.
I'm looking at the right thing.
I just looked in my.
Well, we're
book.
already well until we got to that.
Yeah.
Everything was.
No wonder you're so damn quiet.
Julie knew.
Lamprey,
She was just-
the Lamprey Cooperative is the,
Old, really old.
it's a,
Been around.
It's been around a long time.
Chairman can explain it better than I can.
Started in 76.
The Lamprey Cooperative is 13 or 11 towns, and we used to have hauling with them, but what they do is they take care of the ash landfill, which we're still responsible for in Somersworth. And also, with the buying power, if you will, for MSW, they negotiate a very nice contract with Waste Management. So we're on a 10-year deal with them, and I think we're in year 2 or 3.
Where have we been paying them out of till now?
MSW and hauling.
Yes.
No more
So
hauling though.
there's no more hauling, and with the new way Lamprey is hoping to run, instead of paying an extra fee on top of every ton of trash that we send to the landfill, there's gonna be one set fee for the entire year. And that fee is gonna be
I think it's actually 1378.
or 1377.50, so we made it 1378, and that is why we increased that one to pay. We just put it there to pay for it out of the dues and subscriptions, we figured it was the best line to put it in.
Okay.
But that 1378 covers the fees for administering that. Because right now, Waste Management is just gonna bill the town the 67, I think it is, or probably 68 by the time this budget comes into play.
It'll be 68.50 for half of this budget and 67 for the other half, because they do a year,
Yeah.
not, their years are half of ours.
So there's small administrative charges. The bookkeeper is no longer, she's given her notice. So I think into December is her last day. But the bills are gonna come directly from Waste Management to the town. Before they were going to the Lamprey Cooperative, she would check them, catch if there's any errors. So that's one of the things that you guys, Steve is gonna have to check, just to make sure they're not billing us. They have been known to like send us tickets for other towns. So you have to be careful about that, so. But if you look at, doing it this way is gonna save the town a little bit of money, not tons, but it's gonna save a little bit.
It'll save us like $800 or $900,
Yeah, so,
because it was a $2.50 per ton charge
Yeah.
on what we're currently doing, and we send 1,000 tons of trash to the landfill every year. So it works out for the town of Lee doing it that way. Some of the smaller towns, maybe not so much, but for us it does.
and there's also the, what, closure cost.
There's a closure cost on the bottom budget that is a set price that I don't believe changed at $13.49 that we pay, and that one is to perform upkeep and stuff at the actual ash landfill over in Somersworth.
Yep.
But I didn't wanna add that $13.78 onto that one, because it's for a completely different thing. One is for administrative use, and then the other one is for the closure, the actual closure costs of the landfill.
And will that stay forever? The closure costs of the landfill, do you know?
Probably.
Until DES says, no, you don't have to, but, because you have to monitor the wells, you have to make sure the fence is in place, you have to cut the brush. The other thing is that particular closure thing also deals with the mechanics and electronics and stuff that are there, because there's gauges and valves and stuff. One of the things they're gonna do this year is they're gonna do maintenance. They haven't done maintenance for a while. So there's one valve that you're supposed to actuate, and it doesn't actuate anymore, so it has to be replaced. But so far, the tests have been fine. The big thing they're dealing with now is the PFAS. That's a new thing because of all the things that are happening. And there's 4 wells. There's 4 wells that they test, and 3 of them were fine. One of them had something, it wasn't up to the limit, but it did have to, it'd show it, and they're trying to find out, is that from that well, or is it coming from someplace upstream, if you will? So those are the things that they're dealing with, but that budget's about $22,000. They don't necessarily spend most of it. The other thing, just be aware of, I don't remember off the top of my head, but the closure budget has 100 and some odd thousand in it that they keep just in case something happens, the thing blows out or whatever. And the Lamprey Cooperative itself has $300,000 in it. One of the things that they're talking about is possibly at the next, not the budget that we're going into, which their budget is calendar year. The budget after that is to give some of that back to the towns. So next year we might get some money back.
This all stems from when we burned our trash at the university, starting like in '76.
All that smoke, everybody's
All that
cars.
smoke. Yeah,
you
with
know,
the
that
ash
finished.
problem, you know,
Yeah.
they were doing it in Newmarket first, and then they switched to Somersworth. Yeah.
The other thing I'll say is that $13.77.50 is split evenly amongst all member towns of the cooperative, so one town's not paying any more than the other, it's split evenly amongst everybody.
Steve, we back up for a minute and talk about the compactors.
Yep.
They have I'm assuming they have a life to them somewhere where they just break down so often that you have to look hard at some kind of replacement,
Yeah.
or, no?
Yeah, no, I'm sure they probably do, especially with the ones that have the computers now.
Well, I know that we put a lot of effort into maintaining them.
Yeah, Pete put 30-something man-hours into just fixing the 2 balers that bale our recyclables a couple weeks ago, just to keep them running and keep them going. Stuff that needed to get done, hadn't been done in a while.
So you have those in the CIP then for some?
They're in there, but I believe they're extremely underfunded in the CIP.
Okay.
And you have had a conversation with them this year, right? The CIP people?
Yes,
Okay.
Many, multiple.
yes.
Okay, just wanna make sure.
Okay.
On the balers, is it, you've looked at obviously the cost of either
A brand-
replacing or maintaining. Some of these are
brand
built
new,
probably.
yeah, brand new baler, if you went brand new, is close to $200,000, so.
Does the manufacturer have any kind of a program where they come out and if you would kind of update it?
So the blue one, the one that's been broken, that we finally figured out what was wrong with it,
Mhm.
and then got a new part, and then the part broke, and now we're waiting for another new part to come back. That manufacturer hasn't made balers and hasn't been in business for 20 years. And then the other blue one, they haven't been in business for like 15. So both balers that we currently have don't have any tech support for them.
So it's, you just gotta kind of look around and beg and borrow and do.
Yeah,
whatever parts.
we have blueprints for the electrical system that we follow and figure out what's wrong and then fix it. Those ones you still can do that with. The new ones are all touchscreen computer systems that run everything and everything else, and that whole, using a blueprint to follow it to fix it would be not happening.
Okay.
You'd have to get a controls person to get in.
I mean, so like what broke on the one we currently have is there's a rectifier on top of it that changes it from AC to
AC to
DC.
DC.
And it burned out, or it got stuck open on a part that was 25 years old. And we got a new one, and that worked for 2 days. It burned out and went to ground. When we called the company, they're sending us 2 brand new rectifiers. I guess they've been having problems with them. So it was, once we figured it out, what the problem was, it was an easy fix, but figuring out that, because the blueprints don't say that it goes from AC to DC, so you don't know that it's actually a rectifier until you stare at the plan long enough, it hits you, and you go, oh, that's why.
I was just wondering if we need to start looking at what we do in the long term. I know, again, I'll reference our trip to Elliott, where they had a lot of vertical compactors, smaller, but in fact, the people just came and put their stuff in the compactor and leave, and the compactor does its thing. If we need to just start looking in the long term about updating the equipment we have, replacing it.
The blue one that is running now, but is still waiting for a rectifier, because we have a homemade rectifier and it is working.
Homemade.
I'll let you guess what that
They
hell
did
is.
it.
That we all didn't hear that. It's gotta be, it's gotta be a Jim Banks
So
special.
you couldn't do that with a new machine?
No, you couldn't do that with a new machine, and everything on that machine that could break, we can fix.
See? There we
There's
go.
nothing
There
on
we
it
go.
that if it breaks, we can't
Yeah,
fix.
it's like a
I-
60s car.
It may,
So.
The most
you have to weigh
expensive-
the benefits, yeah.
the most expensive thing on it would be the driver piston on the bottom, but that's all fixable or replaceable. So,
So you're advocating not changing it out?
no, because we can fix that one. The other ones break, they may work, but once they go out of warranty, you're probably gonna be paying someone $3,000 just to show up to look at it. So,
So new trucks are cheaply built, we're gonna keep this old thing. Well,
Did you
Well,
guys find
because
this
they can
guy?
fix it themselves.
Where'd you find him?
Otherwise, you pay $200,000-$300,000 for a new one,
Now, Steve, you
and then they
said,
can't fix it.
you very carefully said the price of a brand new one. That sounds like maybe you've been pricing used
I
ones.
have not been pricing any of them. The previous person had been pricing out brand new balers, and that's what the prices were.
Okay, so
I
nobody's looked
think,
at
I
it.
think used ones are probably gonna be closer to 75 to 100 probably, is what my guess would be.
Guess we'll stick with the old ones for a while.
Steve, can I ask you a question in terms of solid waste?
Yes.
The hauling cost, one of the things that you talked to us about, I don't remember when it was, about looking into possibly getting our own truck and having us haul the stuff?
Yes,
Instead of paying?
yes.
Have you made any progress with that, or is that still on your list to do, or?
No, I've looked, I've seen prices for trucks, and to get a brand new one would be around 160 to 180, depending on what brand. To buy a decent used one, you're looking like 80 to 90 for a brand new
So,
one.
in like 4 years, you could probably pay for it,
Yep.
but how long would it last? I guess,
So the town of Durham is actually
Yep.
buying a new one.
Yep.
Or replacing, I don't know if it's a brand new one, but they're replacing one, and the one they're replacing, I think, was a 2006.
it's like 13 years.
13 or 14 years old. I don't know if it was new when they bought it though, or stuff like that. The way I look at it is, we're not, if we bought one, we wouldn't be putting big mileage on it. I mean, at most, it's going to, the farthest trip it's ever really gonna make is to Harding and Northwood. Other than that, it's going to Rochester all the time.
Do you still go to, was it ERCO in Brentwood?
We do not go to ERCO, because ERCO charges $80 a ton to get rid of construction and demo, and we can bring it to turnkey for the same price as our MSW.
Okay.
Great.
So it saves us, and that's when we get down a little bit farther. They had been bringing it there and someplace else, and it was on average $10 more a ton where they were bringing it, instead of just bringing it to
So logistically,
turnkey.
that's the equipment. How about the people? In terms of, can you,
I have a person at the transfer station right now who's getting his license.
yeah,
I gotta send him to go get his medical card. He's started taking his written and his air brake test to get it. And then it would be,
CEO?
yes.
Is that, yeah.
And then it would, I can drive it, Pete and Warren can both drive it.
so it's a B that you need to do?
Yes.
Okay. So can we ask you to give us some kind of proposal to do that,
Yeah,
coming forward at some point?
yeah, I can do that. That, I firmly thought, when I look at the budget and see that there's $28,000 there that in 4 or 5 years, you wouldn't have anymore. I mean, obviously, you're still gonna have some for maintenance and fuel and stuff on it, but it's not gonna be, after the first 4 or 5 years, you know, it's not 28, it might be 7.
How often are you hauling?
In the winter, a lot less. You'd be surprised, looking at the way the graphs go. In June and July, we're up around 120 tons of MSW a month. In February and March, we're down to like 69, 70. So
People just don't wanna come to the transfer
No, it's
station, is
not.
my guess.
Yeah.
the tonnage drops by almost 50 tons a month in those 2 months compared to the busiest months. And
I guess-
then we don't haul a lot of,
Projects and stuff.
yeah, we don't haul a lot of construction debris in the middle of the winter because no one's working outside, so those drop off dramatically, but in the summertime, 2, 3, 4 loads a week leave.
I guess my
That's
question
what it
would
is,
be,
yeah.
just in terms of, yes, we need to have a truck, and yes, there would be maintenance and fuel costs, would you need to add hours to the staff in order to be able to do the hauling?
I'd either need to add hours that way, or I could, on the days I know we need to haul, extend a part-timer's hours from 6 hours to extend them a little bit longer. Because right now, the 2 guys that are in there all the time are only working 6-hour days during the week. On the weekends, they're working 10s. So if I know I need someone to haul 2 days, I just make them work 8s that day instead of 6s.
But it depends on who's hauling, and you said only certain people can do that, like, so that would be Pete and Warren.
Yeah, but
and
if I-
who's the other?
And Jeff is in the process.
getting it?
Yes,
Yeah,
but
so-
if Jeff can't and Warren can, that doesn't mean I can't take a part-timer out to go help us on the road for a little while.
Oh,
You know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
Do you have workers that are swapping between the transfer station and the highway department?
When I was out with my shoulder, I did, because I was in a sling when I first came back, and I just received the transfer station, so I was doing a lot of learning.
That's not part of the way you're trying to staff it.
No, the only time Peter or I go in there to like work is if one of them, the full-timers, needs to not be there. Because we've been given a directive not to work 12-hour days in there. So if Chip or Jeff want a day off, we have to go in, because I personally don't want a part-timer dealing with the money and opening and all that other stuff because of the bulky fee building. So there's 3 keys to the safe, and I know where all 3 keys are, and they're not, part-timer does not have them.
Now that you mentioned that, one of my questions was gonna be, what are we doing with the ticket machine and all of that? Is that something that's? I can
It's
tell you what
still
happens
there,
when
right?
we've taken a lot of stuff in this summer, and I can tell you that what usually happens is the tickets, I haven't seen a ticket all summer. The cash goes to a person and goes away. I
If,
don't know if they buy a ticket with it and put it in.
They buy a ticket with it and put it in. A lot of times, what's happening is no one wants them. So what they do is they take them and they rip them in half. If you ask for one, you would get one, and they rip it in half, and then they write on half of it what it was you brought in,
Yeah,
and it gets put in a clip, and it comes back down, and then on Monday, I go up there, and I take all the money and all the slips, and I count them all and bring them to Joanne, and then I go back and sort through every ticket from the entire week by what it was
Yeah.
by day,
oh gosh.
and enter it into a computer so I know how much. It helps me keep track, so I know how many mattresses were brought in every week, I know how, or every month and every day.
So
And
is it working?
Sounds painful.
It sounds terrible.
It sounds like a lot
So,
of work for you.
if the finance officer and I had our way, there'd be no cash at the transfer station.
checks only,
It would be
checks only
checks
would
That's a
be my
much better
personal
idea.
opinion.
And we just need to have that conversation with the select board. There will certainly be people who will be unhappy,
It'd be one of the things where you phase that one out.
and there will be a learning curve, but an awful lot of towns around us, that
Yeah.
just, cash is bad.
Cash is bad.
There's a lot of temptation with it,
Yeah.
it just, we don't ever generate all that much. I mean, in our busy week, we'll get $1,200 in cash by Monday when I bring it in.
$1,200 is a lot.
$1,200, I mean, some guy is gonna do, what, 6 months in jail because he stole $450.
No, I know, but
So-
it just, I don't like the money.
It's
do
just,
it.
you'd have to figure out the logistics of it, because I know even for myself, and I see a lot of other people, like if you're doing a project, you're gonna go, you're gonna bring a load. I'm gonna write one check, and then I go back, and I might have 3-4 loads of
But
whatever.
In that
day, you know,
instance, I don't have a problem with them taking a license plate in case you don't come
And
back.
just like,
And then
yeah.
just keeping a tally and doing it all at once at the end.
Right,
Yeah, that sounds better.
Because it makes it easier for people.
yeah, exactly.
And
So those are
we've
just
done
little
that,
things
so
that-
people are cleaning a house out
Yeah.
and stuff like that, and they know they're coming back multiple times, they'll just keep track. And
And
they've
then
got
there'll
the
be a
guy's
bunch
license
of-
plates.
You know, it might be a $250 charge, so you're gonna get checks for $250 or whatever. It's not a big deal, but, I mean,
You wanna write out a check for $2.50?
well, that's what,
But that's the
That's
problem
what
if
they're
you,
gonna propose.
that's the problem
Come on.
if you don't.
I know, that seems,
I
well,
don't carry a
that's-
checkbook. Why would I wanna carry a damn checkbook?
That's-
I don't carry a
No,
phone.
I'm sorry I brought this up, except
I'm
this is
wondering,
it.
Pat,
that's
you
what
got
I'm
a
saying,
problem here?
that's why I just brought that up just then, because there are a lot of logistics
Why wasn't
that
there with
eliminating
the
cash.
plan?
There are a lot of conservative people that deal in green.
Trying to
I know.
balance.
I was just asking what the current policy procedure was
That's what
supposed to be.
that's what they do if you ask for
Oh, I
the
know.
other side.
How about putting an ATM?
Because they rip them,
Never
they
use
rip
a
them and they're
credit
there, and most people
Checks and credit
now, when they
cards.
ask if they want it, they just say no.
Credit card.
I'll tell you how.
No, I
it
wasn't
is.
sure what the
We do a
procedure
pro
was.
forma.
You don't have a credit card?
No,
Yeah, I
that's the
do.
procedure, and the ticket that prints out.
I'm just saying if you wanna
tells me
eliminate
exactly
cash,
how
you gotta
much
do
money
something.
should be
That was the
there.
question I was gonna ask. So what stops us from having like a square D or something down at the guy's house?
That's what
For what?
yeah,
A square D?
exactly.
I will remind the board that when we started taking credit and debit cards in the clerk's office, which is very popular, no question, we had to add a part-time employee. There's an enormous amount of bookkeeping and balancing and reconciling on the other side
To
of
that
that.
process, okay.
Yes, so, sure, we can talk about credit cards at the transfer station, but it would just,
It adds.
it would add time to the finance office. I'm not saying don't do it, I'm just,
What do other towns do? I mean, we can't be the only town
Yeah.
that get this issue.
Dover's checks only,
checks only.
Really?
yeah.
Yeah, any town I've
Durham,
ever
I
lived
think,
in,
takes
it's checks
some.
only.
I think checks are a great idea, but I know they.
Yeah, checks are being phased out though.
Yeah.
They are being
Yeah,
phased out.
really are. Now they're using fingerprints.
Yeah, they're phasing out.
Leave your finger and go
Pay
home.
with your fingerprints.
Apple Pay,
That's right. Well, I got,
Venmo, they can Venmo us the
Venmo,
money.
there you go.
It's easy, it's just, we don't charge them.
I mean, we've talked about
We
that.
talked
Let's
about
see your
that.
bulky waste go up.
Well,
Yeah, well-
you know,
Every town
that's-
around that doesn't charge.
So then
That's, I forget how much.
increase the
30
taxes or whatever? Or-
30,000, or what do we take in bulky fees in a year? Actually, I have that. $30,000?
Pretty close to $30,000 a year in bulky fees is what we take in.
So we just have to make that up,
The issue is, we would be
Somewhere
the
else.
only town in the area that doesn't charge.
yeah.
And it all be
So
here.
everybody would be Brian Burke's friend.
Oh.
Brian, can you take this to the trash so I don't have to pay?
Oh, yeah.
That's what happens.
I know
We
it does.
just, we just changed in Effingham because that's what was happening.
Yeah.
We were not charging and we were getting, we've gone
Everybody's.
from 4 containers a week to 1 container a week.
Big difference.
So, and you actually have this in the back of your notebook. Bulky waste, fiscal 19, $6,373. Compost and recycling items, $3,443. Coupons, $24,917. So yeah, I mean, it's
So
very,
you'd lose the income, but you'd also have the added expense of all those extra things coming in.
right, right.
So it's not just 30,000. you
Right.
Yeah,
spend
so it
more,
would create a lot more problem.
Yeah, I mean, like, one smoke detector is $10 for me to get rid of. So much it costs me to get rid of smoke detectors, $10. Because they're radioactive, they have the radioactive.
Oh, yeah, the
stuff in them.
radioactive core.
yeah, all that.
So they're $10 for me to get rid of one smoke detector.
So maybe, because it sounds like
Electronics,
this
all that.
is a public relations kind of
Yes.
issue.
It is.
So maybe what we say, and I'm not necessarily having this official conversation, but maybe what we say is, okay, we take cash and checks, but starting a year from now or something, we're not gonna take cash anymore. So maybe that's something your people can say, remind them, oh, yeah, thank you, we'll take it, but in so-and-so,
I think
we're not gonna take
Some
cash.
people don't even have checks.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
true.
the problem we'll have with
It's
some
not-
checks that we've had also
Oh, yeah.
is they're for small amounts of money and they bounce.
Yeah.
And now what do you do? Because do you spend the money to collect it or do you write it off?
Yeah.
And
I think
we've also
that's-
gone through because we're doing it right now, I go through this every day. You know, it turns out the checks are more problematic than the money. But I agree with everything everybody said about it. It's a real problem. I have spent more time dealing with a transfer station
Yeah.
than all the other stuff put together.
Do we
But
have?
can't you verify the validity of the check right there?
You
I
can
mean,
do it
isn't there
all.
some number you can call or whatever, you can't do that?
There's systems that do that, but
There's
you have to have
systems,
it.
once again, the
It
cost.
costs money and.
Do you know what, of the 24,000 that we collect, how much is cash and how much is checks?
Oh, I think.
It's overwhelmingly cash.
Yeah.
I guess then I would also like to know how much it would cost if we did a square D or something,
Yeah.
because that might be the best way to go. Because I agree with John, checks, almost nobody has a checking account. The old people do have, I have one, but I'm
I have
touching,
it, but it's,
I have a check.
but everybody has
Well,
a
I do too.
plastic.
And I don't.
Well, you're old too.
I don't carry it with me.
I don't care either.
Right.
You're,
Yeah.
400? But everybody has some kind of plastic thing, they have Apple Pay, Android, they have something like that. So if we had that ability, and the thing is, we'd have to change the number too. Like for instance, it's $2.50 to do something or $5 because they're gonna charge us a fee. So I
Well, we
want
don't
that
pay
fee
the
covered.
fee. I mean, so again, reminder, at the clerk's office, tax collector's office, the town does not pay the
Right.
fee.
But
But
it's
it gets
included.
added on.
It's get added on. So
Yes.
whatever we created for,
Mhm.
because I'd hate for, like, if the charge is $5, we have to charge $5.15. Just make sure that the fee already covers those particular charges.
Wow. Wow.
Sorry I brought it up.
Something like that. It
Thank God I
it
got
doesn't seem like it
50
would be that complicated, but it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100.
You got plenty of land to dig.
140.
Either that or get a cash dispenser that they don't even have to
Not
handle
bad.
the squid. People have
We're
to
not
put
being
the cash
recorded, that
in.
was
That's not, that's
So
not,
the
that's not
garbage
the
police
issue.
will be out
No, they use
checking our
Navtex
bills.
all the time.
Oh, gosh.
and force.
No,
Oh, that stuff
Oh,
that
I mean,
buried
we
is
are,
really in
but-
trouble.
not for the credit.
It's through Avatar, I bet.
Where are we?
Anything
We're,
else?
we're,
Wow.
we're in training, I think.
We went
We
way
are.
off.
Okay.
All right, so the training I dropped by 500 because we haven't been close except for 2 years ago, and those guys can get their continuing education credits to keep their licenses if I send them to the moms meetings, which is the NRA monthly recycling meeting, and every one of those meetings is an hour and a half, and they give you 1.5 credits. You need 2.5 per year to keep your license, and they don't charge, so
Well, the NRA meetings are very,
they're very good to go to.
very good, yeah.
So it's good for them to go, and I can get their continuing training credits without,
Does everybody have to be licensed?
yes. Everyone that works there has to be licensed.
And there's different levels.
Yes, there's different levels.
So you have to have, what, 4s?
No.
You have to have somebody that's,
No,
You just have to have a principal operator, which is what I currently
Okay.
am.
but
There's-
that's 4, right?
No,
No?
no, I think the only 4 in there is maybe Peter's a 4.
Okay.
I think Randy's still on the wall, because Randy's still technically an employee, and he's a senior, so he's the highest there is. So I dropped that by 500, because we still would need money for like the annual conference that we can go to in Concord for classes. The mileage I reduced, I cut in half, because we haven't come close in any of the recent years on paying $800 in mileage. I raised the conference and travel by 100, because we do have to pay to go to the conference, and we now have a few more part-timers that need to go to the conference. I left all the other stuff the same. I deleted Swap Shop and Old Baylor out of the line items, because we haven't used them. They're not even hooked up anymore. The power's been cut. Fuel, I increased 200. In fiscal 19, we came awfully close to spending the 3,000, and I don't know if fuel's gonna go up or not in the coming year and a half.
That's primarily diesel, right?
It's, yeah, everything in there's diesel.
Do you go to the state or do you go to the traffic circle like the chief does? Who?
In there, it's a skid tank that we get delivered from Hartman. Same with the, I have a fuel tank at the highway garage, so we don't buy diesel from the state.
So they bring it to you?
Yeah, we don't buy diesel from the state or the traffic circle unless we screw up and don't order it and we run out. Or we get a real big snowstorm, we just use a lot and then
Okay.
we're stuck. I buy gas for the highway department from the state. It's actually, it's cheaper currently right now through the state than at the pump. Solid waste disposal. All right, so the MSW bulky waste, I only raised $1,000, and the reason I only raised it 1,000 is when you look at the Lamprey contract, so this budget ends June of 2021. So for half of this budget, we'll be paying $67 a ton for tipping fees, the other half will be $68.50 for a tipping fee. Currently, right now, we pay $68.50, so we're actually be paying less in a year and a half than we currently are. In last fiscal year, we did 1,043 tons of MSW, which is 2 million pounds of trash.
Sounds like a lot when you could say it that way.
Yeah.
2 million pounds of trash, it's over 2 million, but I'll just say it's 2 million. So I just divided that in half, so it's 521 tons, and I did half at $67 a ton and half at 68. That gave me $70,000 is what I should spend if we put 1,043 ton in the landfill. The problem, and I didn't lower it, I raised it because the recycling markets are bad. And I know everyone here has gone in and seen the mixed paper fiasco and not being able to put certain things in. That's increased the amount of trash we put in those dumpsters. And depending on what the markets do in the future, we may be putting more, we may be putting less. I don't know what they're gonna do.
Changing how people pay to drop stuff off is stuff's gonna end up in the bulky waste that.
So, yeah, so I left it at 74, I think we'll be okay. That gives me 4,000 to play with over what I think. Now, the reason the fiscal 19 actual is 74.3 is because the construction and demo should have been way higher because they sent a lot of wood to turnkey, but put it under the wrong line item. And that was the previous manager that did that. So that 74.3 is not accurate number. It was really closer to 68 is what was sent that year.
Is the demo number wrong too then, for that year?
The demo number is wrong, but the other problem with the demo number is they were sending it not to turnkey and paying an extra $10 to $12 a ton to get rid of it at places that are at ARCO or at Shipyard over at the ARC facility in Maine. So we're saving $10 a ton getting rid of it the way we're doing it now over what they previously were doing. So it may be a little low what I put there, but it's not gonna be anywhere near what it has been, I don't believe. Like if you actually put the things in the right column.
Steve, the prior administration talked about needing to spend a lot of time negotiating with people to get rid of stuff. Are you still having to do that, or do you have enough hours in the day between the highway department?
I don't really negotiate with people to get rid of stuff.
Okay, so okay. That's what I thought the answer was.
The only time it's any negotiation involved is when it's,
Or looking for new places, I guess was the, yeah,
we have contracts for everything.
okay. That was what I thought the answer was.
I guess the prime example is because we do it, is with metal, which isn't on here because we don't charge for it. It doesn't cost me anything to get rid of it. The NRA gives me a better price than if I just go to Harding's without their backing. So like the NRA goes through Schnitzer, which currently is at $60 a ton. That's gone down from 4 months ago where it was $130 a ton. So if I go through Schnitzer, it's $60 a ton. If I bring my own metal dumpster to Harding's, which I have to pay to haul there, the price is $7 less per ton than if I go through the NRA.
That you're getting for the metal? You're not paying, you're
No, I
getting-
get that.
Right,
But the other
but
thing
it's
that.
still $7
Yeah,
less.
but here's the thing, is we can go back to the hauling cost part of it. I pay $199 to have Schnitzer come pick up that metal dumpster. If we do our own hauling of a metal dumpster, the 9 tons that's there isn't equal to the 199, so it still would be better to take the cheaper price for the metal because it's saving on the hauling costs in the end. Tires and hazardous waste all stayed the same. Electronics and waste oil, the solid waste other I left the same, and I left that the same because I don't know what the recycling markets are gonna do in the future. Currently, mixed paper costs us $59 to dispose of, plus shipping.
So is it cheaper just to shove it in?
No, it's still not, it's still okay to bail it and send it, it's not much better, but it's better. And I don't have a line item anywhere to eat those costs that it cost me to get rid of that stuff, so that's why I didn't touch the solid waste other line item, because I'm hoping that that's where that's gonna come out of, is the mixed paper stuff. Construction and demo I left the same, because I think it'll be okay, and if it's not, it'll go in toward the solid waste other line until we figure it out. Fluorocarbon CFCs, I lowered $1,000. I believe since I took over in there, I've spent $30 out of that line item. We started doing it ourselves again, because we have licensed people that can remove it, so instead of paying $9 an air conditioning unit, we're sucking the stuff out, doing it ourselves, and then we separate the aluminum radiators out of it, the compressors, and all the copper, and we get money at Harding's for the compressors and the radiators and the radiator ends and all the copper, and then the shells go into light iron and we get money for that, so we're saving that. And then I think something like 250 air conditioners go into one propane bottle sized refrigerant bottle, and that cost me $30 to get rid of, instead of paying $9 per unit, so.
I think you skipped over glass.
Oh, sorry. Glass went up because we overspent it last year, and it's $35 a ton to get rid of glass currently. And that's not gonna change, I don't believe, anytime soon. And we average,
We don't get anything but glass.
no,
Never for a while.
we average 20 tons of glass every 2 months in there. So-
Amazing, isn't it?
Every load we ship is about $672 to $720, depending on the tonnage we put in. So,
Did you get anybody to take it? I noticed there was a pile of
I'm-
glass at Jim Banks's a while.
that's old. I did not send that
Oh, you
there. If
didn't?
I can get, so people can take it, you can take it and use it on
Yeah.
road jobs and mix it and bury it, because that's essentially when it goes up there, all they do is grind it smaller, which we already make ours pretty small with
Mhm.
the blocks. And they grind it and sell it as PGA, and people can go get it and use it as a mix in road bases and bed pipes and stuff in it. I've been shopping around trying to get rid of it, I can't find any takers to take it, because they can have it if they want it, and no one wants to.
Well, they're not comfortable with it yet. When I did my
No.
garage, I needed like 500 yards of fill, and I asked the builder about it. He said, "Nah," he was uncomfortable with it. All it is sand.
It's sand.
It is sand.
It's the perfect thing to bed pipes and stuff in, it's just not, I've got people that say, oh yeah, I'll take like 2 loads and see how it works, but then they don't call back or come to get it. If I get someone like Severino to say, we'll take a whole bunch of it for our road jobs, and that'd be awesome. But just in this calendar year, currently as we sit right now, we've sent 160,000 pounds of glass to Turkey.
Does it get recycled? What do they do?
They grind it and they'll sell it as something they call
So
PGA.
we pay them to take it and then they.
Yeah, and then earlier this year, they had a surplus of it, and they told us we could go up there and take it back for free, but I had to go pay for the hauling to get it back.
What a deal.
Yeah,
Wow, what a deal.
I didn't take them up on the offer.
We still, correct me if I'm wrong, we still make money on aluminum cans?
We got 44 cents a pound on our last aluminum shipment, and that was the best price any person's gotten in the state all year, was 44 cents a pound.
So if you can use aluminum, in other words,
Don't buy glass, you
don't
buy
buy
aluminum.
things in glass, buy it in steel and aluminum, because we
And
still make money.
Just like cardboard's gone down from, on the 10th of January at 88.58, it's dropped to 37.50.
Meaning revenue.
Revenue, that's revenue, so only making 37.50. Mixed paper's been all over the place, we've gotten rid of it. We've paid $5 a ton to get rid of it, all the way up to 32. The last load was in 1964, and it's all of a sudden jumped again all the way up to 59. News,
That one's not revenue, that's cost.
that's cost.
What about plastic bottles?
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that.
Peat, so number one plastic, your soda bottles, I think I get 5 cents a pound for.
We get money.
We get 5 cents a pound for it. We got 16 cents for natural and, oh, sorry, we got 5 cents for Tide bottles, the colored, to 16 cents for natural, 2 cents for peat per pound.
But at least it's a plus.
And these have all come down, I think, at these prices.
These have all dropped a lot.
Because it's not going to China and stuff.
Newspaper has gone from $120 a ton to 30 that we make.
They make
it 30.
Oh, wow.
Is this because all the markets were in China? I mean, were we,
The newspaper was actually 35, and I said, I don't think that's a good price, and I decided to sit on it and wait, and I got an email saying I better get rid of what I have because it's about to get really bad, and in 3 days it dropped $5 more a ton. Because we've been getting 120 for it.
yeah.
I talked to the select board about separating out the mixed paper even more
Yeah.
and making something they call SOP, which is sorted office paper, and that's dropped from when I talked to them, that was $120 a ton a month and a half ago, and that's dropped all the way down to 45. Which is still way better than paying 59 to get rid of it in the mixed paper, but in order to do that, we have to combine plastics because we don't have enough room.
I was gonna say, how would you do it? You'd have to have another bin.
And we'd have to combine plastics to get another bin. But
Geez, we need to build a new transfer station for this.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
that's not what I'm saying.
Did the composting of food work, did that get off the ground?
So it's off the ground, I think it's going okay. We're not getting, I don't believe we're getting, so I wasn't here when it all went through and started. I believe they said they needed the bins to weigh 400 pounds in order to make the tonnages work. We have never had a bin weigh 400 pounds. The most, they weigh constantly at like 380 to 390. We can't pack any more in them. So we're close, but there's like 85 people doing it.
So
So
for
we're-
anyone around this table who is not yet participating in the compost program, you could tip us over.
There's
So
like
when you have
the
a
only thing is I do my
do they
own.
pay
I
us
have
to
my own
come forward and do
compost.
they
I've been doing it.
charge us to pick it
forever.
up?
They charge
$14 a bin. So if I do,
They charge us?
yes,
Okay.
so if I do one bin, it's $14, and we're averaging 2 right now. So it's $28 a week is what it's costing us.
But the weight's not going into the MSW.
Right, yeah, yeah. that's
Which
what the
costs
savings
a
is.
lot more, right?
Right,
Yeah.
16.
But there's a lot of people doing it. The program's taken off pretty
Well,
good,
that's good.
so.
That's good.
And then yeah.
So does this, shouldn't the solid waste committee maybe be,
There's no
There is no more solid waste committee.
It's been sunsetted,
oh,
They,
sorry,
it's been moved into the sustainability committee.
oh.
they're down to like
Then
2
should we
people.
vote great?
Yeah, it got dropped down to 2 people. There wasn't enough people
So
on
that,
it.
yeah,
We merged it.
Well, whatever committee does it now, couldn't they be
sustainability.
writing articles or coming
Yeah.
up with
Jen
some sort
does.
of branding? Yeah, I've seen the ones in.
Jen does.
Yeah.
There's a Lee Cryer, right?
Yeah, I've seen those, yeah,
Yeah,
and they're
very
well
good.
written,
Very well worked, yeah.
yeah.
It started off slow, but I think as more people see it and have done it and see people going and doing it, more people have started doing it.
Because you're taking meat as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Meat, dairy, all that
all
stuff.
that stuff, you're taking all that.
I don't even know where it
Pizza
is.
boxes,
Yeah,
Pizza
pi-
boxes.
Pizza boxes and our
Greasy
soil
pizza
can go
box.
into.
greasy pizza boxes can go into the compost.
Really?
So you
Yeah,
rip the
it's
half
greasy. One
off,
in my
that's
freezer.
good.
So like the greasy pizza boxes can't go in the cardboard, it's supposed to go in MSW, you can throw it in the compost bin.
Huh.
The other thing I'll share with you is the MSW charges, because right now we're on a 10-year plan. I don't know, what year are we in? 3, 4?
3, I think.
Well, it's a 10-year plan, but the thing is, they were sharing with us, I'm not sure what Effingham
We're in
gives, but
free, because it's 66 plus the 250 for the ramp rate that's on it.
Other towns that are negotiating a contract with waste management, they're up in the $85 to $90 a ton.
Yes,
So we are saving some money, and I don't know what you guys pay, but
I don't know either right off the top.
Because
I know
Why is there such a big
Sanborn
difference?
pays 89.
because
A ton.
89, yeah.
So the next time we negotiate,
It'll
it'll
be
be,
high.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
So by year 10 of this contract, we pay 75. In 2026, it's $75 a
It
ton.
started January 1st, 2017.
Yeah.
So that's like gonna be sticker shock when we get that, so
Sticker shock,
just be aware of that, so.
I got a bunch of them. So that tells you
Oh, wow.
as it ramps up.
But by that point, when we go to renegotiate, it could be 100.
Yeah, but the other thing you gotta realize is Turnkey just added a whole bunch of space because they were supposed to be full in the next couple of years, and they just added 40-something more acres
Okay.
a year or so ago. So
What somebody-
involved in that was making sure that a whole bunch of New Hampshire waste went through, because as of right now, I think 80% of
It's
the
mass.
stuff that goes there is Massachusetts. It's not even New Hampshire waste.
Yeah, you can hear my 125 at 5 o'clock.
Zoom.
Oh, gee.
Going
Trucks.
So at least we got pricing locked in for a while.
Yes.
But,
They did air conditioners, antifreeze I didn't touch. Brush grinding I didn't touch, even, we just ground brush, and to grind the pile that was there was $5,500. That was the cheapest. I got like 5 different people. It went anywhere from $9,500 to $5,500 to grind that pile.
So do they take it away?
Yes.
And then they sell it, I assume?
Yeah, they'll sell it as, it's erosion stuff, it's
Yeah.
good erosion
Mulch or wood.
material. Lamp enclosure
For a
cost,
chipper.
I already asked that question.
Do it ourselves.
the grinder that was sitting there, the grinder that
$5,000
was,
we did?
yeah, the grinder that was sitting there was, $850,000 when we bought it new. Had a V12,
Big one?
yeah, it had a V12 cat in it, twin
Oh,
turbo.
jeez.
I think it had 1,160
Takes down tree
horsepower in
trunks.
it.
So it can take big,
Oh, yeah, I mean, he ground that whole pile in half a day.
I asked that question already, and I was.
They've
For
got jokes.
So we only grind the pile once a year?
It probably should get done twice a year, but we only do it once a year.
We used to burn it.
Yeah.
so it's worth that.
The current, the current transfer station, Public Works
We
person
pay
came to the
him.
board and asked if we wanted to burn it.
55.
And we said,
That's why I
no,
was
we won't
asking.
do that.
Well, what-
For a grinder.
We're still grinding.
And then he sells it.
So that guy's from Farmington, so he came in with 2 tractor trailers, filled 2 tractor trailers, drove it all the way back to Farmington, dumped it, drove all the way back, filled 2 more, and then hauled it all the way back to Farmington.
Wow, that was 4 tractor trailers.
So
What's
it's
he doing
4
with it?
tractor trailers of
What's he doing
stuff.
with it?
They sell it.
Make money.
To burners.
No, he does not sell it to burners. The people who were doing it before were bringing it over to Newington and selling it to get burned as biomass.
Ah,
He's bringing it back up there, and construction companies will go buy it and use it for erosion control measures. It works as a BMP along with silt fence and silt sock.
Do the bio burners pay more for it, or?
I don't know what they paid for it. Because my whole thing about when I asked if we could burn it was, we spend that much money and we don't get anything out of it. That was my thing, but.
I just did, they chipped down, they did a logging down on North Side Road, and they chipped all the stuff to take it, and they said the best price they would take, they were hauling it all the way to Berlin, because it was paying good money, even hauling to Berlin, they weren't taking it to Newington.
So I don't think we generate enough in that little pile to make it worth
Hauling it.
hauling it like that far. The web reclosure cost is the same, that's a set price. Propane I left the same, and then we've talked about the hauling costs, which I left the same. It should be okay, because right now, currently, I'm trying to send an MSW can and a construction debris can at the same time to Turnkey, so they come with a truck and a trailer, and they take them both at the same time, so that saves us a trip. They charge us more per trip.
It's not 2
Instead
trips.
of $238, they charge me $250 a trip. but it's better than paying $238 twice.
Twice.
Yeah.
I
And it's
agree.
still shipyard? We're still-
Yes, it's still shipyard. And can I go back to the highway department budget? I got something. I wanted to add a budget line, I did not add it when we did everything, because we were under, directive to keep it at 2%. So I know the transfer station's 2.72, but if you add all three up, it's 2.
1.9 something.
For all three across, it's 1.9, but in the highway department budget, I wanted to add a budget line called cemetery. And the reason I wanted to add this line is because the highway department is doing the burials in the digging in the cemetery. The price to dig a full grave has gone for the town from $100 a full hole, which comes out of my hired equipment budget, to $500 for a full hole. We got a family discount before,
Yeah,
that's why.
Ricky's not doing
He's
it.
not doing it anymore.
Ricky's not doing it anymore, so we had to find somebody else. So I'm asking to put a $2,000 limit, or $2,000 into that line, and that line can never be touched for anything other than that purpose of opening and closing, and a lot of them happen on weekends, so I have to pay overtime to somebody to go in there and close them. Sometime, and I can't give full numbers, because I don't know how many I'm gonna do in a year. I don't know how many fulls I'm gonna do in a year, how many cremations I'm gonna do in a year. It changes. But like, so if I spend $500 in there, 800 for a full burial during the week comes in a check that they pay the town. So it's not, so if I spend money out of it, there's money coming in. It's just not in our
Where did
lines.
those costs go last year?
Out of my hired equipment budget, and my overtime budget.
But sometimes you're paying your own employees, correct?
You do.
Yes.
Okay,
You charge for the-
But also sometimes we're paying a contractor?
No. Yeah, no, I pay a contractor for a full burial,
Right.
$500 to come dig the hole.
So if some of the money that's coming out of that line is wages, it has to be coded as a wage line.
Oh.
And some of the money is contracted, so that's a whole different cost code. So there'd have to be at least two lines.
Shouldn't we be charging for some of this?
We are.
We
do, yeah.
We get
We
it
do,
back.
we get
So this is just
reimbursed.
in and out.
Yes, but this is just something that's, because
It's revolving.
it's revolving, but the problem is, so,
It doesn't revolve out of his budget.
let's
Right.
just say
Oh,
I get 5 full body burials in a year.
okay.
That's $3,500, no.
2,500.
That's $2,500, so that's $2,500 that's coming out of my rented and hired equipment line that's not being spent
That you can't spend.
on the side of the road.
Yeah. I think that's,
Yeah, I think it's
You,
actually,
you wanna,
I see.
do it.
you gotta put it where it belongs.
But why don't we do that, but do it in the cemetery?
Yeah,
I was gonna say, why don't we put it in the cemetery
Yeah.
budget?
Yeah.
it's fine with me, I'm just asking the question, because like,
Like you're saying,
Could you
don't take
put
it
it-
out of your budget.
Could you,
Let's do it out of the.
could you make a separate budget just for that though? Because the cemetery trustees are gonna be, that's my money. Or even if you're over, let's say you budget 2,000 and you've done 8 of them, that's even more money. It's gonna come out of someplace. And they're gonna be very,
Well, who's?
I don't think the cemetery trustees are gonna object if we put some lines in that budget.
the one of the cemetery,
Pay for this.
the head of the cemetery trustees is the one that's doing most of the ones on the weekends anyway, so.
well,
Yeah.
check with them and see.
He just did
Speaking of the
my mom and
cemetery
dad for me
budget,
on Sunday, so.
Mhm.
But like I pay them to be there, so, and sometimes the services and stuff last 20 minutes and it's
Yep.
fast. Sometimes people wanna stay and be there for a while, we don't rush them, we stay away, I mean, it's not an easy time. The full bodies, if it happens on the weekends, more than just one person, cause we have to hand backfill the entire hole. So that's usually 3 of us hand shoveling everything back in.
Why is that? Why do you have to hand shovel?
Because
you
I
don't
don't
wanna
wanna
have
pay,
the
I don't
backhoe
wanna
come
pay a
back and
backhoe
fill
to
it
come
in.
back again, and that'll cost me even more money.
Since we're talking about cemetery, at the end of the meeting the other night, I asked who the superintendent was, and you folks said that there wasn't
There
one.
is no superintendent.
So isn't there $1,500 in the cemetery budget for a superintendent that we could do something?
I'm listed on paper as the superintendent, I don't collect anything for it.
Well, from a budget perspective, we could do something with that line.
Yeah.
Who gets the $800 check though?
The
The
general
town,
fund.
the general fund,
So it doesn't go back to the line item that it just came out of?
No.
Well, that doesn't seem right.
Yep, the
Yeah,
gross
it's not
budget.
The
a-
state does not allow you to
State
do
doesn't
allow
do
that.
accrual bookkeeping.
And there's no, you can't have a
States of cash.
revolving fund for cemeteries.
Cash accounting system.
which is fine, I understand this, but I'm just, I'm
It
trying to
used-
keep it so the
used to be less
money
expensive.
goes to like the roads, and then there's something,
Yes.
so like if that line item got stuck in the highway, if I didn't get any burials all year, it doesn't ever get stuck.
Well, the other thing, this is coming around full circle, because one of the things the highway department is paid for is the fuel for cleaning, mowing the cemeteries.
Yes,
So if the cemetery trustees are okay with it, because I know we have a new bunch, the old bunch, you know,
A little touchy.
yeah, we don't say about that, but maybe what the cemetery budget needs to have is the money for this person that you're proposing to mow, and money for the fuel for that particular purpose as well, because then we can see how much it costs to maintain the cemeteries.
oh, I know how
Right
much
now,
it
some of it's
costs.
in your
It's
budget.
right here.
Oh, no, I understand that, but that's a combination of different places, so.
So we agree that it should just be in the budget, I don't know where you put it, you know?
Yeah, somehow we need to deal with that, need a line.
Yeah.
So maybe you can propose whatever those changes are supposed to be, like the extra person you're talking about. If that's what they're going to be doing, mowing the cemeteries,
Well, they could be doing other things too, I mean, if we're shorthanded and we need to do road work, they can come do
Yeah.
that, but,
but basically, the majority of their work is going to be in the cemetery.
or the baseball fields, soccer fields around
So
here.
maybe you can figure out what that is, because then we can capture how much it costs to maintain those particular facilities.
To do every piece of grass
Yep.
for
Piece
the,
of grass.
for the 2016-17 year,
Yeah.
to mow it, was, estimated cost was $22,838.
That's more than that now.
Hmm.
And that's adding 20% to the budget for mower maintenance, travel time, and load and unload.
Hmm.
Why is it more, Julie?
The wages are higher, costs are
Yeah.
Yes,
higher.
it's higher.
2 years ago.
Whatever it is.
That was 2 years ago.
We've got more, we picked up a little more grass, it's not much, but we mow the parish house now, which we weren't mowing before.
So maybe you and Julie can have a conversation with Pete, who I guess is in charge, and see if you can make some changes in that. It would be nice to see how much it costs to maintain the cemetery, because I know you have that sheet, I've seen that sheet before, but,
So Lee Hill alone,
And put the,
Separate it out.
and put the mowing for the fields.
But that's
The
for all
recreation
the,
budget?
all the cemeteries?
all the
That's all the grass
cemeteries,
you
It's
got?
all the grass everywhere.
yeah.
so like Lee Hill just in that year was 6,400, Old Parish was 3,600. Some of the other ones are all littler ones, we don't do them every single week, but we still have to go check them. And a lot of them are just like weed whacking and stuff like that, so some of the cemeteries were only like $72 for the entire year. But the two big ones were $10,000 for Old Parish and Lee Hill.
How about the ball fields?
Public safety building, $320 he's estimating. Soccer field, which is right there, $330. Mastway, $520. The annex and transfer station, which are out front, $112 for the annex, transfer station, $210. Little River Park slopes, swales, $1,200, all-purpose field, which got mowed 23 times that year, was $1,500. And then the baseball field got mowed 28 times, was $1,400. So the total hours on the baseball field for the entire summer was like 35 hours. And that doesn't include, the weed whacking that we still have to go do. So when you go into the cemeteries, you gotta weed whack every piece of granite. In Lee Hill, there's over 1,000 pieces. You have to walk around and weed whack.
Oh, boy, that's a lot, that's a lot. Maybe I can help and maintain our own stones. I'll bring my weed whacker.
Bring your weed whacker.
Get all the ones near my parents.
That, I agree with Scott about trying to get the numbers. But I also have heard Julie talk about if you make too many more bookkeeping changes, you're gonna need to add some hours to bookkeeping.
Well, this is just gonna be a matter of, it's actually gonna be more work for Steve, because he just needs to code it. You know, there has to just be a way to keep track of when you work in the cemeteries.
Well, if he's having only one person to do it,
Yeah.
that's just splitting one person's time versus 2 or 3.
The only problem, if we put it in the cemetery budget, I'm just asking, is if, say, we get a lot of rain, right? And it hasn't really grown, and I have a bigger road project I wanna do, am I allowed to use that person?
Yeah.
Even though the money
Well, it's just
for
like-
that person is in
Well,
the cemetery trustee's budget, or is that not what we're talking about?
yeah, as long as you're just coding it where the person works. That's what I'm saying, it's really gonna be more of a burden for you.
Oh, all right.
So it's just like you do with the highway and the transfer station. You know, you've got people going from whatever. I'm just saying in terms of put the money in there for the cemetery in terms of, because that's the majority of what they're gonna be doing.
No,
If you need to pull them.
I agree with that, I just don't wanna do something that costs more money than you wanna work at
No, I
Greaves to
understand
do it.
But he's already expending, because up until this point, those particular costs have been inside the highway department. So you have no idea, you think it's only like 6,100 or 6,300 to maintain the cemeteries, but it isn't. It's way more than that. So,
I'd say that come summertime, 70% of our time is spent on a lawnmower or buying a weed whacker. And I'd like to get it more 50-50 so we can spend more time on the road, cutting brush and doing that kind of stuff.
so you're just looking for somebody to come in and do it. You provide all the equipment and everything like that.
Yeah,
You're not looking for a
I got a no, because they've gone with a service before
Yeah, I
and
know.
it didn't end up well.
Yeah.
There's already a person that wants to come do it if it goes through,
Okay.
and he's mowed the cemeteries a lot,
Does he used to
yes.
have your job?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah,
yes.
that's why we didn't use that service anymore, because it didn't meet his high standards.
I've seen pictures from it, and
Yeah.
I
They
didn't,
didn't do a very good job.
no.
Well, that's good. You think he's qualified? I don't know.
He's gonna come
I
do
don't
it.
know if he's qualified.
Wow,
I think it's middle of time.
that's cool.
Are we done?
Everybody all set?
Good, we're good,
Thank you very much, Steve.
Thank
Nice
you.
job.
Thank you very much.
Anything?
Nope.
For you two?
Do you wanna talk about the thing that you and I have been emailing back and forth about, 408?
Oh, you can, you'll send it to everybody.
You did?
Yeah, and you've got it too, right?
Yeah.
So yes, the 269,000.
The point I had made to Scott was that if you look through the audit, in one of the footnotes for the audit, the auditors break out the expenses into program, fundraising, and admin. Per the audit, administrative expenses were $76,000 for the year ended July 18. I don't know what period then they gave us a number for admin expenses on which they based the money that they're asking from the town of Lee. His total of administrative expenses, which he subsequently gave us a listing of, is $269,000. There is no right answer to what constitutes administrative expenses. It's whatever, the auditors we have a way we do it as auditors, but there's not really, if we went around this table, you'd all come up with a different bucket. And I don't know if when you had this discussion with ORYA about what cost we were going to subsidize with them, if the discussion was ever held of what they were going to put in administrative expenses.
Yep.
So it looks to me like they put some things in there that probably are more correctly called something else. So that's why.
I'm sorry, I had a comment to me this past week that said, you guys need to look at whether ORYA pays their coaches or not. He said, they don't pay their coaches. Why are they asking for so much X money?
Well, I would assume that the coach expense, even if they are paying them, would not be considered an administrative expense that they were asking the towns for. I would assume that would be a basis for the tuition they would have in the courses, but I have no idea how they're doing this.
We never did pay the coaches.
Well, there is a number
Well,
in
They
there
were
was
there.
for many, many years.
There is a
But
number in
I
there
don't
for
know.
professional services. It's
Right,
almost
that's what I
$50,000. I have
wondered,
no
yeah.
idea
They
what
pay
that is.
some of them and they don't pay others of them.
That's
So
what they
anyway,
do,
when we
yeah.
decide what number we want to come at, if that's just my 2 cents worth on that.
42,650 for professional
Yeah.
services.
They've included a lot of things in administrative expenses that we might not want to be involved in
The
reimbursing.
biggest one is payroll, wages, taxes, and fees, 127,000.
I assume that includes Matt and their bookkeeper.
814.
And maybe somebody else, but
That's the,
so.
No, I
Yeah,
understand.
no, he never had in terms of what we
He
would
said
pay
there's no
for.
sound, there
Yeah,
shouldn't
and
be
that's,
anything
you know,
in there for,
You're
coaches.
done, Steve.
Oh.
Hey, you have to figure it out.
If that's true, why is it need?
Well, unless
you
you have
can
kids
want
want
to.
to, and you're interested, so.
sounds like that time.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Steve. Have a good night.
Thank you, Steve.
It's just another way to think about
Yeah.
things, and I don't know, unfortunately, we asked them to come up with a mechanism to calculate the number, and they did, so now we have a number they can calculate, which doesn't,
Right, but that still doesn't mean we.
Doesn't mean anything, if there's a number.
We
Maybe
can
the-
figure out what we,
Maybe the next question is, thank you, but we need a further breakdown. We need a breakdown of the breakdown.
you
And-
could, yeah, you could ask for that.
Well,
Because I looked at that, and you're right, that didn't really tell me anything. So I know what a salary is, and I know what the payroll expenses are, but what's a fee?
yeah, I know.
What was that? Is there a
Hmm.
fee to maintain the scheduling software? Is that a fee, what is that? So I think it's legitimate to ask them for more information.
The other thing we have a conversation about is, basically what we're doing is we're subsidizing the lead users of that particular service.
Yes.
Mhm.
So I think for me, the biggest question is, how much do we want to subsidize that?
It's the ultimate
So the
question.
example that he used was if we give them half of what they're asking for, then it's gonna double what the Lee residents have to pay for each program. Like if they enter a soccer program and it was $100, now it's gonna be $200.
No, I don't, I mean, it shouldn't be quite that dramatic.
It was,
mean,
he was like, if
I
you
don't
give
know.
us half,
Usually
that's
it's
what,
nice.
it'll be half as much, you know,
Well,
whatever.
they
Right.
said the administrative burden per student across the program is $105, plus the,
Plus the cost
Administrative
of this, of the sport.
Of the
So
program,
if we give
of
them
the
half of
sport,
that,
yeah.
then their administrative cost for a family would be $50 plus the cost of the sport
Hmm.
versus
Right.
$0 plus the
Right.
cost of the
So
sport.
that's, yeah, however,
So
that's.
it's a difference of somewhere between $0 and $100.
That
per family.
will be additional.
That would be.
Which
And I
should
just-
be per year. Because the admin costs
That's for the
are not
year.
for each
Right.
sport. So in other words, there are lots of families where they have multiple children,
Right.
Doing
and the
multiple
children are
different
playing
sports.
multiple sports, but the admin costs don't go up.
No, they divided the admin costs by 500, which was total registrations in the year from Lee residents. So they did divide
Yeah,
it.
but I guess what I'm saying is, to me, that doesn't make sense. Your admin costs are fixed for the year, so if you wanna charge every family that
Do it once.
participates, you do it once.
Right,
You don't do it 4 times a year because they're playing in 4 sports.
Well, but how would you,
divide it out.
yeah, I mean, so you would be, so if your child played one sport in a year, you pay the admin fee for once. If
Right.
your child plays 4 sports in a year, you'd only also pay it once?
Well, it's just,
Well, they keep track, I guess. They would have to keep track, and if that
Well,
kid does
it's
sign
not a
up for
right
another
answer.
sport, then
Right.
they
It's
would.
whatever you wanna do.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't
yeah.
have a problem with them splitting out 500 ways. If there's gonna be taking an entire yearly expense, dividing it by the number of times you're gonna get paid in a year, I don't have a problem with that.
The other question I have
And
is
the
how much
cost.
is Jeff Colton's soccer program pulling away from Oyster River?
A fair amount.
A fair amount, which
Fair
means the
amount.
price at Oyster River has to go up to maintain their
Right.
administrative
Right.
budget.
Or the fewer kids.
Right.
Right.
Exactly, so there's starting to get some separation here.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is it's gonna increase the cost for the Lee residents. And if it's not significant, then, but we just gotta make sure the ones that can't afford it actually
Are they
get the help
scholarshiping
that they
kids, is
need
it?
to be able to still play, because it's really important.
I thought last year, they spent a great deal of time telling us how they were going to become self-sufficient.
They did, and we talked about that too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's gone the way of the dodo.
It doesn't appear
No.
that they've done any of that.
Because that
Well, they
pressure is
compared,
off.
Well, no,
they compared other
Yeah,
towns.
They
and
looked
they-
at, right,
Right.
they looked at it, and they are a recreation sports program.
Mhm.
So if you compare the fees for Oyster River to what the other towns pay that are fully funded by the towns, it's ridiculously different. But I don't know why, I mean, if you're a kid living in Lee, can you go play in Newmarket?
You can,
In
you
other
gotta,
words-
you gotta pay. The
Yeah, I
same thing with like
understand that, so I
Barrington.
think they
Barrington
may be-
example, some of them do, so.
Right, I think maybe they were making that comparison, that
Right.
that if they truly have to fully fund themselves,
The prices are gonna be,
it'll be cheaper for people to go play in Dover or Barrington or
Mhm.
Newmarket or wherever
Right.
so we can go play.
yeah.
So,
Well, if Durham continues to pull out with their own recreation director and their own programs,
yeah,
it's only Mad Grant.
I don't see how Durham is gonna make their
Yeah.
own, they're not gonna be able to make their own
Right.
soccer leagues and hockey
Right.
leagues, and it's not gonna happen. There's not enough,
Are they actually
They
doing
would
it? Because
pull
I looked
away.
at their programs and I didn't see any.
they don't have any of that. It's
I
just
didn't
like
see any of
Lee,
that.
you know, okay, we do drones and archery and so forth.
Oh,
Yeah,
It's
they
not
have
the
a
same.
kayaking
You're
program
not-
and a music program and.
You're not
It's one.
Comparing apples to apples, it's not
They didn't have
sports.
soccer.
Right,
I don't think they do
exactly.
team sports at all.
No, I didn't see any team sports. I saw a lot
Right.
of after-school,
Activities.
hanging out in the woods,
Yeah,
kayaking,
all that kind of
hiking.
Hanging out in the woods.
Because
But there's actually
ORYA
four
was
programs they have
created
with IQ.
for Durham, Lee, and Madbury. That
was a
it was
real thing.
Oyster River, that's
Like
just like the
Kingston
school
Service?
system.
And
And that's when it was,
Yeah.
you know, brought
The
on.
rain
So
it brings
that's
it
how it's been operated this whole time, you know.
Are we done, Mr. Chairman?
I thought the
I'm
ABC
good.
had,
I had turned it over to you,
but we
Yeah, and
continued
then-
to talk.
and then this.
Anything else? I move to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.